Hello, people of YouTube. My name is Steve Gray. Thank you for watching. Today we're talking about My Hero Academia Season 7, Episode 5. Decent episode overall. As I mentioned, the Demon Slayer review and the My Hero Academia review got pushed forward a couple of days because I was not around on the weekend, so I am filming it now, and you will get the Demon Slayer review on Tuesday, and then it should go back to a normal schedule for a while after that. And I think there is one weekend in July. Same thing's probably going to happen, but we will make a short video of that when I am closer to that date. If you watched my short, I did do a brief short with Android 16, mentioning that these two videos would be delayed. So you already knew that, possibly, but if you didn't, well, here it is, the review regardless. So not a whole lot going on this episode. We start off with Toga here, kind of reminiscing in her own house. Imagining blood, basically everybody calling her a demon girl. She's a vampire, all these terrible things. And it makes sense. She's fascinated with blood because her quirk is blood related, similar to Stain's. And society does not like to accept that. Everybody says, oh, blood is jicky, all this other stuff. But she's fascinated with it because, her quirk utilizes it, wouldn't H? Which makes perfect sense. She's just kind of reminiscing in her old house. Dabi shows up, says, hey, you reminiscing? Ends up burning the house to the ground. She says, thank you, as well. He then says, hey, Toga, your quirk allows you to use other people's quirk if you're close with them, right? Well, lucky I grabbed this blood, and he actually ended up with grabbing some of Twice's blood, before they took his body away. So she is going to end up becoming Twice, I'm guessing, making a whole bunch of duplicates and causing a major headache for the heroes. And I definitely don't realize this. I mean, this is probably All For One's ace in the hole. So definitely going to be a big issue there. Let's go ahead, fast forward through the introduction here. Shigaraki is healing. Spinner is very worried about him. All For One wants to use Spinner as a face for, I think they're calling them Animorphs. Basically people that have quirks that do not look like regular humans. Like, obviously, Spinner looks like a lizard. You got a whole bunch of other different people. Gigamantia, for instance, is massive as well. So, there's all sorts of things where they do not look like normal everyday people. All For One seeds are still in UA. There's this guy who basically he was tasked, him and some girl. We don't ever get their names. They're just kind of faceless people that are afraid of All For One, which makes sense. Tastes kind of terrifying. And their plan was to get Midoriya alone, similar to Yuga. But after all their training and resting, they decide it's finally time to basically leave UA and move on to the next steps. So Class 1A and probably a couple of other classes are leaving UA, and these people are like, oh, thank God, we don't have to throw anybody under the bus and cause problems, things along those lines for people, which is good, because they're not ruining any plans. So here he is right there. He's like, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about them leaving. They're already doing it. And they leave. Here is the new dorm room, which it looks very similar to their current dorm room. If you weren't aware, this is outside of UA. Has its own, that definitely has a very good defense system as well. And that is where they are moving a lot of the heroes. I think the principal and, the association realize that the longer Midoriya stays there, the bigger a problem he is. So if we can move him out of it, a lot more civilians don't get hurt. He is also fairly protected in this other location. All For One has Ragdoll search quirk, so it doesn't really matter where he goes, because he can just find him whenever he wants, which is kind of crazy. But that is how his quirk works, essentially. And I think they just need to kill him. It's not a defeat him type scenario. It's kill him, get rid of that quirk, and never have to deal with it again. So earlier in the episode, Midoriya mentioned that he wanted to thank Uraka for saying the speech and everything. And he hasn't really got a chance to talk to her since there, because, constantly going with missions, doing things with Yuga as well. That whole situation went down. And he finally now has the opportunity to thank her, which she does. She was like, "Oh, you must think I'm weird." Then he starts rambling off a bunch of things he likes about her. And she's like, "No, I didn't. I didn't mean that. That like society is kind of going on as normal as things are panning out." Is basically what's on her mind is that she wants to figure out, which is why they showed Toga in the beginning of the episode. Is she kind of gave her answers about society, and it made Toga cry. And she wants to know, essentially why. She wants to find Toga. She wants to understand Toga's way of thinking in order to kind of put that aside, understand where her point of view is coming from. Because, from Toga's point of view, everything they're standing for is really, really bad. But from Araka's point of view, everything that Toga is standing for is really, really bad. So it's kind of different ideologies, different ways of thinking between two people. And, I think Araka is coming from the right here where she wants to understand her way of thinking in order to make another decision about Toga. Because I'm thinking it's not like forgiving her or anything along those lines. Because what Toga has done is essentially unforgivable. She's murdered a bunch of people. But she still wants to understand where Toga is coming from so that way she doesn't freeze up. It's not on her mind in the future with battles. So I'm sure we're going to get a Toga-Uraka rematch at some point in time. So that'll be interesting to see. And Deku, Izuku, kind of the same way. We then have a kind of a subplot, which eventually is going to happen, where Ida is talking to Shoto, kind of like, I have a big brother too. He's like, oh, we shouldn't be becoming family. He's like, I wonder what we should do. And then Bakugo, I think, is trying to make a joke and make him feel better. He's like, probably spicy udon, being in the flames. And he's like, yeah, I'll make sure to grab some for him. We have going back to All For One here. He's talking about the plan. He's actually speaking to Yuga's parents and then also speaking to Yuga as well. They end up running into each other. Apparently, he has some sort of quirk or something that allows him to, kind of like, I guess, Deku's sense quirk, contact malicious, contact and sense malicious intent, if I'm saying that correctly, or bad intentions. So he knows when someone is doing it. So Yuga here kind of goes through the plan, basically saying that he wants to completely destroy Japan and the currency and then spread that out to the rest of the world. Everything's going to be in chaos, and everybody's going to basically be relying on quirks. Imagine someone with a water sword, but somebody has a water quirk that they can generate water out of thin air. Imagine there's no electricity. You can generate electricity from thin air, power, heating, so on and so forth, until he becomes the ruler of the world. And then we have Yuga here, crying. And I actually believed Yuga here for a minute, because we didn't really hear the plan to draw out All For One. We knew they were essentially going to use him to a certain extent. And he comes out of hiding. He's got this different style mask on at this point in time. Obviously the old one got destroyed. I kind of like the old one better. This one is, I'm assuming it's still some sort of breathing apparatus, life support. I mean, he doesn't have eyes, so he doesn't really need to see, so I guess that doesn't really matter at this point in time. But Yuga's like, yeah, I chose my parents over you, all those things. And then he ends up shooting one of his naval lasers. I'll lure him out. Yeah, that's basically what the plan was. And then he's like, trap or not. All For One's like, trap or not. It doesn't really matter. He's like, I took all appropriate measures, even though the Elden Tit didn't work. And then we get Dabi with a new outfit. Toga's popping out. And then on the hero side, Endeavor pops out. Mirko pops out. Part of her ear is trashed. It's going to be interesting to see her fighting, being that I think her arm and one of her legs got essentially completely destroyed. It actually looks like she has some sort of crazy robot arm going on over here, because this is kind of the last still. We have some Wild Pussycats. We have Whale Dude. He's the arrow guy. He's one of the top heroes. Fat Gum. Still not seeing Lemillion here. I wonder if Lemillion's going to be an ace in the hole. It's been a minute since we've seen him. He did get his quirk back, so we are fully aware. He got his quirk back. Nejire, Sun Eater, Wash Machine there, and a couple of others I don't recognize, but probably higher up on the hero list. I'm assuming these are all going to be higher up heroes, because if they're not going to stand a chance. I'm seeing a lot of top 10s here. So let's go ahead and skip to the outro, which essentially is going to be Nomu's, Deku, Toga's probably going to pop out a bunch of twices as well. But next episode is called Division Plus Ultra. Let's go ahead and go back to that still image, which that right there is probably going to be your thumbnail for the day. And ended on a high note, and I really like that. But Yugo is very believable as an actor. I don't know what they did to make it so, he didn't sense any ill intent. Maybe it was maybe basically they said go through with the plan and don't worry about what we're doing. They're probably not going to tell Yugo what he's doing, what the heroes are doing. But essentially, I would say is they probably told him to go through the plan. Don't worry about it. We'll figure out what we're doing. Do exactly what he wants you to do. And that's probably how they got away with not having to deal with all for one sense of ill intent. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. Good little setup episode. Not a whole lot going on here. Really love this still image right here at the end. All the heroes coming out. They're going to go after all of the villains, and we're going to have some fighting the next several episodes. So, we're 5 episodes deep. I think we got 22 or 23 episodes this season, so it'll be cool to see how this fight pans out. Shigaraki's in the mix too, so that'll be interesting to see. Obviously some people we haven't seen yet, but this is just the main still with all the pro heroes, I believe, coming out. I'm not sure if Sun Eater and Nejiri are pro heroes, but maybe they are now, because I think they were seniors. I believe they were seniors in UA. So at this point in time, we might have had enough time where they're all graduating, and then maybe Lemillion will show up. But who knows? It's weird to see the top 2, the big 3, they call them, without Lemillion, because he's number 1 out of the big 3, but we are missing him. So I'll end it there. Thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, leave a like, share, comment, all that fun stuff. And tomorrow, stay tuned for Demon Slayer, and then next week we are going to be back on the Saturday-Sunday schedule. As always, have a good one.